Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Melissa with Male Inspirations, and today we are going to be repainting this hutch. It is one of my biggest projects I've done, and I was very excited to take it on, and it was a commission piece for someone that I know. It is a beautiful size and shape, and I really was excited. The biggest challenge was trying to get rid of the redness on it, so it was a lot of work, and you'll see. So we're going to go ahead and start by taking off the hardware, the doors, and the shelving. I liked all the hinges and I kept those because they were in great shape, and but I did not keep the knobs. I did end up changing them out, but I think I will save these for a different project. I love to use Dixie mud to fill in any scratches and any holes that are in the piece. The bottom half of the hutch on the dresser, there were a few holes on the very top. I want to go ahead and get those filled in, and some scratches on there from wear and tear. The top half of the hutch wasn't quite as scuffed up or anything, which was great, but I did mainly focus on the bottom half. On these little corner pieces, I like to use a popsicle stick to kind of get into those scratches, and then I'll use my finger to kind of shape where I want the mud to go. And then once that dries, I will use a sanding paper to kind of shape the edge to the original shape. Alright, so I did let that dry for about 24 hours, and it's time to sand this baby down. So this was not a real wood piece. From what I can see, it was a vinyl top, I want to say. It was like a very thin sticker that looked like a piece of wood. As I was sanding, it was coming off and kind of showing into the actual, I don't want to say particle board, I think it was press board, but it was smooth enough for it not to be an issue or anything. And then I just wanted to make sure I got everything scuffed down real good, so that way the paint does adhere to the piece a lot better. I also wanted to mention that it is so important to wear a mask or a respirator when you are sanding, just because the dust can really get into your lungs and into your body, and you really don't want to do that. After I was done, as you could kind of see on the tabletop, there was so much dust, and red dust too, just from that stain color everywhere in the garage. So like I said, please wear a respirator just for your safety. I did use a sponge and a sandpaper on the glass doors. I really didn't want to use a sander and somehow sand into the glass, especially on that. And then on the previous door, just to get those edges where I wasn't able to reach. Once you're done with the sanding, take a microfiber cloth or a tack cloth and make sure to get every bit of dust off. That way you have a really good chance of the paint adhering much better. This is my favorite cleaner, the Crud Cutter. I love it especially because you don't have to rinse it after you're done cleaning the piece. It really takes off a lot of the dust, a lot of the crud, as per the name, and any of grease or any icky things that are left over, and it just takes a lot of that sanding off. Here I wanted to show you just exactly how much of that stain was going to be coming off and how we can fix that issue. I am cleaning the piece, of course, just to get any of that dust and ickiness off, and you'll see here momentarily that a lot of that stain is coming off. It's going to happen especially with anything that's a red stain, and you'll have to use a blocker in order to stop it from bleeding through into the paint, especially if you are using a lighter color. With this particular Hutch, the outside is going to be kind of a brownish color, but the inside was going to be kind of like a light creamy gray color, like a beige, and I really wanted to make sure that the bleed through wasn't going to come through that lighter paint. These were all the rags that I used for the Hutch, and you could just see how much of that stain was coming off. It's just kind of crazy how the red stain does that. So in order to fix that, I am going to be using Boss by Dixie Belle. It is really good to use. I've used it many times before, and I'm going to be using a little roller just to kind of get the coverage even on there. I like brushes are fine, but with a big piece like this, because it was so many flat surfaces, I just wanted to make it a little bit easier myself and use a roller. So once you kind of get that done, you let it dry on the first coat, and typically I would do about 2 coats on that, and from there we can go ahead and start painting. I also wanted to mention that Boss does block odors as well and is a stain blocker. I've used it a couple of times for different pieces, for blocking stain and even odors too, and it really does work like a charm. Run into a huge problem here. After doing my first coat of Boss, after leaving it to dry, I see where it just pulled away from each other. It was this bubbly texture, and that is because I did not sand the piece enough to apply the piece. So basically you have to get as much of the finish off before you can apply it. So in order to fix that, I had to sand it down and then use Slick Stick. This will work to stick on anything that's shiny, or if you don't want to sand it down, you could put this on anything that is shiny, and then you can paint over it. It will stick to anything like that. So with this, I did try to sand it down as much as I could. It doesn't look like it because it was really hard to sand down, but I was able to paint over the remaining Boss and let that dry, and then once that was dry, I was able to go ahead and start painting. But I did panic a little bit just because I haven't run into this issue yet. I'm still kind of new, so I am learning as I go, but I know that this stuff does work. once I figured out the inside of the dresser and the hutch, the top hutch, I went ahead and let everything dry, and I started working on the doors and the shelving. I did do the same process of using Boss on the doors and shelvings as well.
Keep thinking that I could have done something, but now I'm left with an empty heart. No making amends, no waking up beside you and holding you till we forget it all. How could I know there was no second chances? Like dominoes, my life got really scattered.
Now it's time for the fun part, is applying the paint. Finally, after letting Boss dry and for Slick Stick to dry about 24 hours, I want to go ahead and start painting the outside. This color was really pretty, actually. I've not used this color before, and in the end it kind of dried to like almost a taupey color, where it has like a kind of a purpley undertone to the brown. It was really nice. So yes, I went ahead and get the first coat on here. It's called Mud Puddle, if you haven't seen that on the previous clip. Let that to dry, and then I want to go ahead and do the inside of the dresser as well, so you'll see that next.
Got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. Got me stone cold. No Wizard of Oz can undo what I've done. Completely out of luck this time. I'm stuck in reverse. I gotta get away now, but I can't seem to take the lead. Oh baby, how could I know there was no second chances? Like dominoes, my life got really scattered. Still, I find myself home.
And here is the inside color, Sawmill Gravy. It is a very pretty color, and I would use this again for other pieces. You can kind of see in the corners, I kind of already started painting them. It's like this really pretty beige gray, almost like a grayish. Really nice, and it really complemented the outside color as well. So yes, I went ahead and did the first coat on this one, let everything dry, and then came back to it a couple days later, and then did the second coat.
You got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. You got me stone cold.
Here you can see how it looks just with the first coat on the outside and inside, but you can already tell that it's looking so much better. It is quite patchy. It always is on the first coat, so if you ever do this, don't fright. Second coat will always be the best coverage. So here are the doors after the second coat, the little window doors. And I did kind of tape them before, but the color still kind of bled through, or the paint. And so what you can do is just take a razor and then just kind of scrape it off, and just kind of put the razor at an angle. That way you're not scratching the mirror, not the mirror, the window itself. And then just kind of scrape it off, and then you do it for both sides. to one of the last parts of the hutch, and it's time to seal. I personally like to use general finishes. Now it was time to pick out the hardware for the hutch. I really like this knob that I've had before. It really went together with the colors and it popped nicely against that brown. The only thing was that the silver on the knobs did not really match with the hinges on the hutch. And I didn't want to have two different metals. I did have this little knob with the gold, which kind of matched what the hutch had with the hinges. So what I wanted to do was go ahead and switch out the little hardware for the knobs. That way it does go together with the hinges, and I think it came out pretty cute. I was having a little bit of an issue where you can see where the boss primer and the paint kind of seeped between the slats of the glass. I just didn't like how it looked, and I really did not want to leave it, especially for my customer. So what I did was got this paintable caulk, and I wanted to bead through onto the little edges there, kind of cover it up, let that dry, and then go ahead and paint it. This was my first time using this or applying the caulking, so I probably wasn't the best at it, but it worked out in the end. I really liked how it looked, and like I said, I went ahead and painted it just to make sure that it kind of went in seamlessly. In your arms of gold, it's funny how easily a life can be torn apart. Why couldn't I simply see that I was sick at heart and I am in deep debt? The climb we did was unreal. You made me so speechless. I just can't believe it. You broke the coldness somehow and lit up a flame. Ooh, I was my own enemy. Screamed out loud because it felt impossible in my bones, like getting blood out of the stone on my own. But you came around and removed the thorn in my soul. You guided me out of the storm. I found home in your arms of gold, in your arms of gold, in your arms of gold. I rise from the ashes with pins and patches. We carry on. I rise from the ashes. I heal from your passion. My doubts are gone. I took a very fine brush and used that same paint color and painted onto the white areas, and you can just see how seamless it looked. It just looks so much better than what it used to. I'm really glad I did this. It was a lot of work in a sense, just because I was trying to get used to doing it, and it was a little tedious with the painting and then getting the caulking, but it just turned out so much nicer than what it looked like. I just couldn't justify leaving that how it looked. Also, ignore that other knob on there. I was trying to test out to see if I like this one, It was a really pretty knob, but it was just a little too stark white compared to the dresser, and it wasn't meshing well with me. This was the last step that I was doing for the Hutch, and I was so happy to have gotten it done. It took me about a month or so to get it done, and a lot of painstaking mistakes on there. I wasn't able to film everything just because there was a bit, but it turned out so nice in the end, and I'm just really glad with the result. So let's go ahead and finish this part, and then you guys will see the ending. Let's take a quick moment to see and remember what it looked like before. And here is the final result. I could not be happier with the outcome of this piece. There was a moment in time, and I know that every creative goes through this point where you just don't think it's going to turn out right, or it's never going to end, and it's not going to look or be what you have envisioned. And it just exceeded my expectations so much, and I love how this looks, and I'm so happy how it turned out. And my client really did love her piece, and she was very happy with the results. So I'm just exactly happy with it, and it just turned out so nice, and I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this. I know it's been a little while since I made any videos on this, but like I said, it took me a while to make, so hopefully I'll get some more videos out. And if you liked it, please like the video, subscribe if you haven't, and thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.